Okay, chapter 6 is a digestive system. It's also known as the gastrointestinal system or the alimentary canal. Alimentary canal is not as often used, but definitely GI or gastrointestinal or digestive system. And the function of this system is to provide nutrients for growth, maintenance, and repair. And essentially, the route of food is from the mouth where food enters, um, and then it goes through the canal. The pharynx is the throat, esophagus, stomach. The small intestine is composed of the duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. I remember that as DJI, duodenum, jejunum, ileum. Those are the three sections of the small intestine. And then the large intestine, and we'll show some pictures of that where you can understand the ascending, transverse, and descending. And then food waste is stored in the rectum and expelled from the anus. There also is accessory organs such as the liver, the pancreas, and the gallbladder. Okay, beginning with the mouth and the teeth, this we call the oral cavity, and there are three main salivary glands that kind of help the physical and chemical process of digestion, starting in the mouth. Um, Mastication is a word that means basically chewing or food being broken down by the teeth. Once food enters the mouth and we start to chew and chemical reactions happen and breakdown happens, we then call that food the bolus. From the mouth, food enters through the cardiac sphincter into, I'm sorry, through from the mouth, it goes from the pharynx in the throat to the esophagus and down through the lower esophageal or cardiac sphincter into the stomach. And there are three parts of the stomach. We have a fundus of the stomach, the body of the stomach, and the pylorus. And again, we have physical or mechanical, but also chemical digestion. Two sphincters here, the cardiac sphincter and the pylorus. Small intestines, like I said, DJI, duodenum, jejunum, ileum. A lot of the digestive process happens here. And in the small intestine, enzymes are secreted from the liver and the pancreas, and most absorption takes place in the small intestine. In the large intestine, we're not digesting as more as we are absorbing water and synthesizing vitamins. And there is the cecum where the large intestine starts. Also, the appendix is down here. And then the ascending colon, where the colon moves, food or bolus moves upward. Transverse colon, where it moves across. Descending colon, where it moves down. And then sphygmoid colon is sort of S-shaped at the end. Again, here are your accessory organs, your liver, your gallbladder, and your pancreas. Okay, so that should give you some background, some context, a few minutes of just understanding the parts. Let's get into the medical terminology. Stomato or oro means mouth or oral. So stomatitis is inflammation of the mouth. Oral means pertaining to the mouth. So we say oral cavity pertaining to the mouth. Glosso and linguo, think about it if you are bilingual, you speak two languages. Linguo is tongue. So bilingual literally means tongue of two. A glossectomy would be removal of the tongue. Glossal piercings you might have heard of. But glosso or linguo are tongue. Dento and odonto refer to the teeth. So a dentist, specialist of teeth. Orthodontist, specialist of straight, ortho is straight, teeth. So that odonto is in the middle there. Gingivo, gums, gingivitis being inflammation of the gums, gingivectomy meaning removal of gum. Esophago for esophagus. So esophagoscope is an instrument used in the visualization of the esophagus. And esophagitis is inflammation of the esophagus. Gastro, we had this one before, is stomach. So gastralgia is pain. Gastropathy is disease of the stomach. Pyloro is referring to the pylorus. So a pylorospasm is involuntary contracting or twitching of that pylorus. And if you remember, that's that ending sphincter before the small intestine at the end of the stomach. Entero is referring to the small intestine. So when we say entero, we're really referring to the small intestine, which is made up of DJI, the duodenum, jejunum, ileum. When we say colo or colano, we're referring to the large intestine. That we say colon in general, we're talking about the large intestine. Entero being the small intestine. Duodeno sounds just like duodenum. So duodenoscopy is process of visually examining the duodenum. Jejuno is the jejunum. So jejunography is suturing the jejunum. The second part, DJI. And ileo is the third part, and that's the ileum. So an ileostomy is a formation of a mouth or an opening of the ileum. Appendo or appendicto, right here, is the appendix, this little finger-like projection where the ileum meets the cecum here, where small intestines meet large intestines. That's where the appendix is. And I mentioned this one, colo or colano, is referring to the colon in general, so the whole large intestine. And I like this diagram. You have the cecum in one color, the ascending colon, transverse colon, descending. Now you see this S-shaped sigmoid and the rectum. So colostomy is forming an opening our mouth in the colon, and it's not specified where. Colonoscopy is process of visually examining the colon. Sigmoido is referring to this S sigmoid colon. Recto is referring to the rectum. Procto. So ano is referring to the anus. Procto is referring to the anus and rectum. So a proctologist is a specialist in the study of the anus and rectum. Here's ano. So that's referring to just the anus, just the opening. So perianal is referring to around the anus. Hepato is liver. Hepatomegaly being enlargement of the liver. Hepatitis being inflammation of the liver. Pancreato is inflammation of the pancreas, whereas pancreatectomy is removal of the pancreas. Coli. So coli by itself means gall or bile. Gall or bile. It's the green stuff you might vomit at the end of a stomach bug. That's what bile is. So a colith or colieth is a gallstone. That's the technical term for gallstone. Now, cholangio, if you remember, angio is vessel, and we said vessel of any kind, right? So not necessarily a hemangio or a blood vessel. Cholangio is a bile vessel. So bile vessel. And in this example, cholangiole, making it smaller, it's a smaller version of a bile vessel. Cholecysto, cysto is bladder. So we have bladder of bile or gall, so gallbladder. Cholecysto is gallbladder. So cholecystitis is inflammation of the gallbladder, whereas cholecystectomy is removal of the gallbladder. Viscero is referring to the internal organs not specified. In general, your visceral organs. Viscero is referring to your, I would like to say guts. Like if I had a visceral reaction to something, if it was gross, it's almost like it turns your stomach. I think of the like a visceral or internal organs. Okay, your suffixes for this chapter. Emesis, we've had this, is vomiting. So hyperemesis is excessive vomiting or vomiting of excess. Iasis, this is an abnormal condition of, but usually by something specific. So cholelithiasis is an abnormal condition specifically caused by a gallstone. Cholelithiasis. Orexia is appetite. So anorexia means without appetite or no appetite. And not to be confused with anorexia nervosa, which is an eating disorder. You can have anorexia for any reason. Just like I had a visceral reaction to something and now I don't feel like eating. Pepsia is digestion. So I think of Pepsid AC or Pepto-Bismol. That pepsia has to do with digestion. So dyspepsia is bad or difficult digestion. Phagia with a G is swallowing or eating. So dysphagia is difficulty swallowing or eating. Polyphagia is many or much eating, so hungry all the time. Prandial is a meal, and usually you'll see this with medication orders. Postprandial being after meals. Okay, let me just double check that we don't have any. Let's see. I want to make sure we don't have any abbreviations. There's lots and lots of practice with this. Many, many slides. We do have abbreviations. I'm glad I checked. Okay, so abbreviations. We've got bowel movement. BM is bowel movement. That one's pretty self-explanatory. CA is cancer. GERD. GERD is another way of saying reflux, and it stands for gastroesophageal reflux disease. GERD. GI is gastrointestinal. IBS is irritable bowel syndrome. NG is nasogastric. So anything that's going from the nose to the stomach. So it's literally pertaining to nose and stomach, NG. And then NGT is a nasogastric tube that we might insert from the nose to the stomach. PEG is percutaneous gastrostomy tube, and that is percutaneous through the skin. Gastrostomy, opening in the stomach, mouth or opening in the stomach, right? And that is a way that we can feed someone, like a tube feed. NPO means nothing passing orally, no food or drink for that person. NPO. PO being by mouth. Okay. And there's a progress note at the end of this lesson for you to figure out. You can go ahead and you have the answers here, and you can try these. So that is chapter 6.